You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. It's a time for another Get Geekish podcast. I was going to start singing and I lost it to go into the Get Geekish podcast. But hey, it's Derek and Bino.
It's all about the effort there. I like that.
Well, for some reason, I was going to roll into it with the tune, and then I just went Italian, and I don't even know.
I realize that whenever I sing up here, it sounds great, and then as soon as it comes out here, everything in me goes, no, stop.
Right. What are you doing? Anyway, Derek and Bino here. Thanks for joining us on another Get Geekish podcast. It's the holiday season, and we decided to touch base on everybody's favorite holiday character, and I'm not talking Santa. I'm talking the Grinch.
You wanted to say villain at first, didn't you?
I did, but he's got to redeem himself, and I also wanted to go the Grinch, but it's something that's basically been in everybody's life so far.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, we're talking 60 years the Grinch has been around. And
it's been a while, yeah.
I mean, it's been decades. Now they got all the different versions of it. We're going to touch on some of the different iterations that have come out over the years. But back in the day, the Grinch special came out on TV, and you got to watch it. And then once Christmas happened, you couldn't watch it again until the next season. Mm-hmm. And it was a big deal. It's one of those classics that are up there. It came out right in the middle, about the same time as all those claymation Christmas movies. Ugh. So at the time, it was kind of billed as just another Christmas movie, whatever. But it's had some staying power, to say the least.
Well, it's one of those ones too. I don't know when you grew up, with you, if it was one of those ones like, with the claymation, the Rudolph and all that, and the Grinch, when it got close to Christmas, it was just one, like Friday night, right? Like the Friday night before Christmas or something like that, where they had Charlie Brown Christmas, the Grinch, and all that. And it was a big deal. Your parents were like, okay, it's time for the Christmas specials, and you sit down and watch them. Mm-hmm. I was never a fan, really, of the Grinch or the Rudolphs. Charlie Brown Christmas was okay, but just the animation, something with the Grinch, I didn't care for. I didn't understand the whole phenomenon, especially, the later iterations. I'm like, oh, it's okay. But to me, the Grinch is just, we've read the book or the poem, right? Dr. Seuss's original.
Yeah, it was an original poem called the Hubbub and the Grinch, which is a poem that first appeared in Red Book magazine in 1955.
1955.
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
And from there, it got a little more popular. And supposedly, reading a little bit about Dr. Seuss, Ted Theodore Geisel, when he was coming up with the Grinch story, he apparently based the Grinch off of himself, as the legend goes. He was looking in the mirror after Christmas one day, and he saw a Grinch looking back at him, so he decided to try and write a story based on that to try and rediscover some Christmas magic that he thought he'd lost, because he just saw himself and he thought, Christmas, kind of based the Grinch off of himself. Mm-hmm. And then later, his daughter, I think, said that she actually thought that the Grinch was her dad, or Mr. Geisel, on a bad day, and the Cat in the Hat was him on a good day.
Okay, hopefully not the Mike Myers version. So yeah, we had the animated special, which I wasn't around in 77 when it came out, right?
66.
No, 66. 77 was the weird sequel that we'll get to here in a minute.
Yeah, 55 was the poem in Red Book. 57 was the black and white book released by Dr. Seuss, which was one of the easiest stories he ever wrote. I think they said that he wrote that in just a couple of hours.
Okay, I mean...
And then 1966, the animated adaptation premiered on CBS.
Which has... Everybody quotes it, right? And it's still a thing. I don't think it has not necessarily the staying power, the phenomenon as it did growing up, because, like you said, we had to wait for it. Now it's just on demand. You can get it, okay, it's December 1st, we can watch it every night. Back then it was only like a once or twice type of thing. They might have a repeat of it. Mm-hmm. You have the iconic songs from it, the Mr. Grinch, which you listen to the lyrics, and some of them are just, I'm like, how did they come up? A greasy banana black peel or whatever? I mean, 39 and a half foot pole. That's pretty specific there. But
I feel like all the Grinch memes make sense now. Now that I'm an adult, as a kid, the Grinch always says crummy old eye, blah blah blah. But there's a lot of people like, what is wrong with the Grinch? He just wanted to live alone with his dog and hated people. I kind of get that.
Yep. It's one of those ones where you're like, okay, I understand. So maybe, maybe that really was Dr. Seuss. I don't know.
And somebody else made a good point I saw online. They're like, well, maybe this Grinch guy wouldn't be so bad if there wasn't somebody singing a song about what a pile of garbage he was 24 hours a day.
That's true. That's true.
Like, hey, are you supposed to find love in your heart? Like, you stink, Grinch. I wouldn't touch you with a pole. I hope you die. Oh, well, Merry Christmas to you too, you little hooligans.
Haha. Nice pun.
Yeah.
But we have the lovely Boris Karloff portraying the Grinch, providing the voice.
Boris Karloff?
Mm-hmm. You don't remember him?
Don't you mean Thurl Ravenscroft?
Nope. Boris Karloff was in the original one. He was the narrator, providing the story for the Grinch.
Oh, right. I'm thinking of my mistake. Thurl Ravenscroft is just the one that voiced the song.
Yeah, he's the singer. Yeah. No, no. Good old Boris Karloff providing the narration for that, and I think the narration is really one that does kind of stick with it, and that's one thing with all the Dr. Seuss kind of things is going with it. In the adaptation with Jim Carrey, it was Anthony Hopkins, and I appreciate that. But so what was your thought like when you first saw the animated one, right? What was your, what is your take? Is this something that you still kind of carry with you?
Well, I enjoyed it. It was a thing and I liked it. I liked the Dr. Seuss books. I too thought it was a little hokey because the animation wasn't great, but it was a little bit of a mulligan because the animation came out 12 years before I was even born. So, yeah, animation had come a long way for it. But it was still at a soft spot. The songs were catchy. They added a few of the things in the animated special. They made him green, added his dog Max, added the songs and stuff like that. And the songs were catchy. They're cheesy as all get out, but you could hum along to it. And it had that Christmas message, but not the churchy side of it. So it was like, oh, yeah, be a good human being or who thing or whatever. So that kind of felt nice. And, what I remember feeling when I was a kid is this might say something on me, but I was more worried about how he treated his dog like crap.
I know, that's what I was thinking.
Poor little Max was the most loyal little dog that would do anything the Grinch wanted, and he was just a complete jerk to him.
And I think that's one thing is they kind of redeemed him in the latest iteration of it. They kind of redeemed that aspect. But yeah, you look at the Jim Carrey one and the ones before that, it's just you're like, I'm rooting for this guy. Fun
fact, Your Mean and Mr. Grinch, the Thurl Ravenscroft song. Do you know what else he was the voice of?
What's that?
Tony the Tiger. They're great.
Huh. Okay.
That's going to come up at some trivia night someday, and you're going to thank me for it.
Probably. Did you know that the Grinch's green coloring was inspired by a rental car? In the original book, the Grinch is illustrated as black and white with hints of pink and red. Rumor has it that Jones, the animator, was inspired to give the Grinch his iconic coloring after he rented his car that was painted an ugly shade of green. I want to know why he's the only green one, though, in the whole Whoviverse. That's the kind of... And again, this is in different versions of it. He's always green, but in the Jim Carrey one, everybody's like, in the Benedict Cumberbatch one, he walks down to Whoville and they're like, oh, Mr. Grinch. He's like, don't talk to me. He's just that curmudgeon old man that everybody knows. It's like, why is he the only one that's kind of different?
See, I always took it maybe it was because it was the subliminal, he's green with envy of all the things the Who's have, maybe.
That sounds a little bit better than a rented car aspect of it, so.
Yeah, I could see that. And it's, and the Jim Carrey, when they took it off, he was spraying mold spray in his armpit. So green just kind of looks like that green, gross moldiness and not clean.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of like a Yeti covered in algae, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. I'll take it. All right. Should we move on to that weird sequel that we didn't even know existed?
Sure, let's. Yeah, I didn't know these. You mentioned there was a Halloween special, 1977, with the Halloween Grinch movie. What was that one called?
The Grinch. I have so many things pulled up about the Grinch. What is it? It's like the Grinch does Halloween. It's so weird. Halloween is Grinch Night. There it is.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Um, it's the prequel to the 19. So it's a sequel prequel to the 1966 television special How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and it premiered on ABC on October 28th, 1977.
I think there's a reason I may have never watched.
I was going to say this. This is a prequel that we had no idea existed, and what kind of made me think, like, I googled something, I don't remember, because my son right now is obsessed with the new Illumination Grinch, the one with Benedict Cumberbatch that came out like 2 years ago.
My daughter was watching it earlier this afternoon as we speak.
Yeah, and in the song, that they had the little remix of the
Tyler
Mr.
the
Grinch
Creator
song.
one.
Yeah, he mentions something like, we don't come to your house on Halloween or something like that. I was like, why do they even sing that? And lo and behold, Halloween is Grinch Night. I'm wondering if that has some weird tie-in, and like, what is even the premise of this movie? And I'll be honest with you, I googled it and I was like, what? And somebody said this is easily my favorite Dr. Seuss animation of all time.
What?
So, yeah, somebody said that. I didn't even know it existed. Oh my gosh. It has a 6.6 out of 10 on IMDb.
Which for a Grinch movie is not bad, but I would have expected to be lower in all honesty.
So the quick plot is, in Whoville, each Halloween a sour, sweet wind blows, and a chain of events causes the Grumps, the Hockencracks, to arouse the Grinch into descending to Whoville in his paraphernalia wagon and wreaking havoc in the town in Grinch Night. All of Whoville dreads the smell of the wind as an omen, and everyone retreats into their home as the whole village goes into lockdown.
So I'm just imagining the Grinch rolling down the hill in a cart with a little Cheech headband on and some Doobie Brothers playing in the background.
Right?
I feel like I want to watch that movie now.
Euchariah, a young Who with astigmatism, goes out to the euphemism and blows away. This is from Wikipedia, by the way. And blows away. He runs into the Grinch as he is picking brickles out of his fur, in the end result of a failed attempt to hunt down the lazy woozy woozoo. I can't.
And scene.
Oh my gosh.
And so there was that one, which
I kind of feel like we need to watch that one, though.
I feel like I need to. Yeah, probably will. But then in 1982, just 5 years later, they also had the Grinch's The Cat in the Hat for an animated special. Another one that kind of came and went and did absolutely nothing for anybody.
Are they getting lazy, too? Are they starting to go to the Smurf route, the Grinches?
Grinch. Yeah, probably something like that. But it was interesting because that spent decades as, How the Grinch Stole Christmas was just a staple for most of pop culture, especially here in America. And then the movie rights came up for auction in 1998. And the auction started at $5 million plus a good portion of merch sales that went along with the property.
$5 million?
Started. Because the studios were throwing money trying to get it. And in fact, the rumors were that Fox had a deal on the table where they had a Grinch live-action movie planned with Jack Nicholson as the Grinch.
Okay.
Which I could see that possibly working, but it seems like an awful lot of money. And then they made the Jim Carrey remake.
The Grinch on the pale moonlight?
So from 2 years from the movie rights going up for auction, it got bought. Universal wanted out the whole thing. And then they had Jim Carrey in a live-action remake directed by Ron Howard, of all people.
This movie is either you hate it or you love it.
Yeah. It's a little creepy. It's a little dark. All the characters look weird enough that they're real close to being nightmares for kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Who's in this look really, really weird. There is quite a bit of adult humor in it that, upon rewatching, you're like, oh, they're putting their keys in a bowl for. Okay, I got it.
The early 2000s did that a lot with kids movies. They just try to throw adult jokes, and they're not for kids but for adults. And I feel like it looks a little tacky in hindsight, but
Yeah, this is one of the ones I'll watch it. I don't go out of my way to. I mean, Jim Carrey did a fantastic job in this. He at one point had like a psychological breakdown because of the makeup. This is a fun fact that I'm sure everybody knows. If you don't, then here you go. Doing the makeup because he had to sit in the chair for so long and the contacts hurt his eyes that they had to bring in a torture specialist, someone to help him overcome that.
Yeah,
and
literally a CIA operative who trained people on how to survive being tortured and kidnapped to teach them how to get through these things with makeup.
If you have a chance, watch the Graham Norton show. He talked about it, but he's sitting there saying like you have to just sit there and punch yourself in the leg to get over it, or you just smoke. So he's sitting there, he's like, I'm this Grinch sitting there going, and just punching himself in the leg, smoking packs. I'm like, okay. But I mean, he owned that role. And there's a lot of iconic lines and everything like it. Again, the movie overall kind of forgettable, but his role, just a lot of the stuff that he improvised, just his humor and everything, and the way he talks. Max, you can't do that. Can't you learn that again? And
it was one of the parts, like a lot of Jim Carrey was like, especially that time, he was so over the top that it bothered me in some movies. But with the Grinch movie, it fit. His rubber face, over the top antics were like, okay, this fits a cartoonish movie. Like this is well casted.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say the little Cindy Lou Who girl, she was pretty adorable in that movie.
Yeah, she's like the only one they didn't make nightmare fuel.
Yeah,
because I mean, Baby Grinch, they didn't need to go there. I didn't need to see that.
Forgot about that.
But Jim Carrey spent 92 days in Grinch makeup, spending 2 hours in the morning getting in and 1 hour in the evening getting out. 92 days wearing that every day. Because it doesn't look comfortable.
Taking one for the team.
Right?
Well, there's even some of those where it like zooms in on his eyes and you can see they're all like bloodshot around that side of the contacts. You're like, that's not CGI.
Oh my gosh, the Grinch suit.
That's legitimate irritation.
Right? The Grinch suit is covered in yak hair, which and dyed green and sewn onto a spandex suit. Talk about not being able to breathe.
all my favorite fabrics rolled into one.
Oh my gosh, dude. Here we go. Sir Anthony Hopkins recorded all of his narration for this movie in one day.
Nice.
I would actually love, and I'm sure that there's interviews and out there, everything like that, but I want to know why Ron Howard chose the way he went with this movie, because somebody compared it to like kind of a Tim Burton-esque movie, which it has that, like you said, it's dark and...
Well, whatever it did, it managed to work because it was funny. You mentioned that people either love it or hate it, but that movie came out in 2000 and it became almost like a cult classic Christmas movie, and a bunch of people still absolutely adore it. And I think younger people, especially, like you said, the old TV remake was just cheesy and the animation was bad enough that they didn't really relate to it. And that one came out and they all saw it as kids, watched it on repeat and repeat and repeat, and somehow the original Grinch and the 2000 Grinch got to be side by side, where instead of competing with each other, they both became their own holiday classic movies for their own audience, and they could exist side by side. It wasn't like you had to like one and hate the other. There, there's two different versions. Okay, yeah, we'll watch them both.
I think honestly, that like you hit the nail. It's like the early 2000s too was prime time for those weird type of movies and for Jim Carrey to be over the top. So it worked, and everybody's going to go see, especially in the early 2000s, going to go see a Jim Carrey movie, right? So I think that kind of helped get the exposure out, and we all know that the trailers kind of just show the best parts. So you're like, oh, this looks funny, and then you watch it, you're like, what is? Oh, okay, that was funny, but what is this? What is going on?
What's wrong with their noses?
Oh, that bothers me so much. Like their little.
And that movie did spawn one of the most horrendous video game covers I think I've ever seen that you pointed out earlier tonight.
It was the 2000s. A lot of movies had the video game tie-ins that were god-awful, and this one came out of the PlayStation, and the cover for it... What did I say? It looks fake. It genuinely looks fake.
It looks like it was like an ad created for a video game magazine knockoff. Like... a poorly CGI'd Grinch with freaking sunglasses and pointy teeth in the cover, like, hey, we gotta find that sweet spot between Parappa the Rapper and the 7-Up spot. Yeah, nailed it with the Grinch.
And what's funny is I've seen gameplay of it. It doesn't look fun at all. It looks
What's the premise of the game? Do you know?
no. It's just going around like from what I saw is the beginning part where he goes down to Whoville and he has to just do stupid little tasks like you have to go destroy mailboxes and you have to go to the post office and sneak around his Max and then get the Grinch in there to put in. I'm assuming it's very loosely based on the Jim Carrey movie because of certain aspects of the game, but Terrorize the Who's is what I could tell.
Okay, so here we go. The plot, thank you, Wikipedia, is this game starts out with the Grinch staring down his telescope at Whoville, planning to take their presents using his gadgets, and then he goes to the cave and then looks through the blueprints and then ends up falling off the mountain with all the boxes of his blueprints, and they get spread over Whoville. So as the game progresses, you have to visit the Whoville, the Who Forest, the municipal dump, the Who Lake, destroy Christmas presents, play pranks on the Who's, and recover the pieces of your blueprints so you can go ruin Christmas.
I can tell you right now that it doesn't look fun. The controls on it look horrible. The graphics, I mean, obviously it's a PlayStation game, so they didn't age well.
I do have somebody summed up the Grinch. Like, I never really got the plot of it. I don't know where I saw this, but they summed it up in a much more articulate way than this. But they basically go, okay, so we got this story that everybody loves about some cranky old man who decides he's going to cancel Christmas because it's too loud. So he commits some burglary and breaking and entering on a whole bunch of people, but they're pretty cool with it, and they just start singing. So then he has some major cardiac problems, and then they have dinner together, and everybody's happy. The end. Like, that's the plot of the Grinch movie, right?
Well, it's funny you bring that up too, because I mean, the one thing that the books and the animated short never did was give us a backstory. Mm-hmm. The 2001 and then the 2018 or 19, whenever that one came out, gave us more of a glimpse into his past, right? In the Jim Carrey one, he was orphaned, adopted by Who's, and raised by them, and then he was bullied because he was different in school and he had to shave early and to cut his face. So, he became an outcast that way. And he just said, I'm done with you, and then ran away. So
deep.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, kind of a stretch too. I mean, maybe not. It was the 2000s. So, but, I don't think that, like, growing up, I don't think I ever was like, you know what? I need more of a backstory in this guy. So
yeah, it's because the original animation's only what, like 30 minutes long, 28 minutes long, something like that.
Or something. Yeah.
So you don't have, and it was based off of a one-page poem, 35 lines. So like there's
and
so
not
much.
What the book has 69 pages in it, so it's like, okay, how can we stretch this out into a 2-hour movie? We need a lot of filler.
Just a smidge. But we get that in there. We have the Jim Carrey Grinch, and that survives another 18 years alongside the other classic original Grinch. Mm-hmm. And then here comes 1998 and Illumination, the same studio behind all the...
2018.
2018. The studio that brought you the Minions and Despicable Me's puts together their take on the Grinch with an animated special. And it kind of came and went just like the other ones did, where it had a bunch of fanfare and marketing, and then it kind of just went on by. But sure enough, every Christmas since then, that movie, that marketing is front row center, and every kid I know wants to go watch that movie repeatedly.
It's not a bad movie, especially considering I've watched it probably 50 times by now.
The little one's a little obsessed with it right now, right?
Yeah, he's like nonstop. We haven't given him the Jim Carrey one yet because I don't know if I want to give him nightmares. He's already not sleeping, so. But he loves the Grinch and he loves this one. And watching it, I'm like, I could see why this one adhered to a different type of hobby. It's a lot more kinder. The animation style is gentler on the eye. It's that cute fuzzy type of thing. You have the story where the Grinch isn't as much as a grump. Mm-hmm. He's kind of more down to earth. He's more relatable on this one, to the point where like we all know those people who like despise Christmas and everything like that. They do give us kind of a backstory where he was orphaned in the orphanage. So they kind of took the Ron Howard story and made it their own type of thing. Mm-hmm. But in this one, he definitely has more of a kinder heart, and the Who's know who he is because he comes down and gets food, and they're like, oh, and like one of the guys, Bricklebaum or whatever, thinks that they're friends, and there's that whole aspect there. And
Yeah.
he actually has communication with the town, as opposed to the Grinch only has communication with the town when they try to like carry him.
Mm.
The Stephen King movie,
Dr. Seuss's The Grinch in Misery.
right?
They also had one other spin-off that you pointed out, thanks to NBC. There was Dr. Seuss, The Grinch musical that came out in 2020.
I didn't think anything would be more horrifying than Jim Carrey in the Grinch makeup, but seeing Matthew, whatever his name is, Matthew Morrison in the Grinch makeup.
He was the teacher from Glee, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But seeing him in the Grinch makeup, I'm like, oh, God. No, that is just awful. I didn't need to see that.
That is a very odd picture. I can't say that I ever
watched
that or will watch that.
I didn't hear anything of it. I heard a little bit about it due to the Macy's Day Parade.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I haven't heard if it was good. I haven't heard if it was bad. I haven't heard anything.
I'm going to assume it was bad because I pulled up Rotten Tomatoes right here, and Grinch the Musical as a 13% on the tomato meter, whatever you want to call it.
Depends if you're across the pond or not.
Yes, and they keep going up from there. The Jim Carrey Grinch, it has 49% on the tomato meter with a 56% audience score. Then the Dr. Seuss's The Grinch from 2018, it's got a 59% tomato meter with 51% audience score.
Did they say why they dropped How the Grinch Stole Christmas and just made it The Grinch for the 2018 one? Is it because they wanted to like be a little bit different?
I think they wanted to take the Christmas word out of it and make it just a holiday movie.
I mean, right away, and he says he hates Christmas though. So.
Yeah, I know, but I think they're going for it. It's more marketing to say The Grinch, and then it's because the Jim Carrey one was How the Grinch Stole Christmas. So if you're going to remake a remake, change it up a little bit.
That's what I was thinking. Is they kind of try to make it like, hey, we're separate.
But you get those tomato scores, and then what do you think the tomato score is on the original How the Grinch Stole Christmas?
What, like a 90?
100% tomato meter and
Really?
95% audience score.
100%?
Yeah. And I'm with you. I enjoyed it. I've got a soft spot going with it, but it is not a cinematic masterpiece. Mm-mm. And even on my list of Christmas movies, it barely makes the top 10. Like I don't feel like I have to watch the original Grinch every year.
Mm-mm. Yeah, it's there for nostalgia.
Yeah, I still like it, but it's not. I don't pull on that movie and be like, okay, to my kid, like, here you go. Here's some cinematic Christmas masterpiece you're gonna enjoy. I'm like, yeah, here's the old version. See how far we've come.
Well, and it's the good thing about the Grinch too is like he's very through all these different mediums, right? He's very noticeable. Like my son, what we were watching Home Alone 2 and the Grinch thing up, it's like Grinch, where they're showing the old movie. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's the old one. Mm-hmm. So, and they have different things where he's if he doesn't look as cute and cuddly as the one from Illumination, he's still the Grinch. Everybody knows him.
Did you know that Dr. Seuss actually had vanity license plates on his car that read Grinch?
No, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Cat in the Hat's too long.
What'd you hide in the trunk there, Seuss?
What is it? Just out of curiosity, before we end this, what's the tomato meter for the Grinch is the Cat in the Hat and the Halloween Grinch? I don't remember what it's called anymore. That's that forgettable.
Well, let's find out, shall we?
Halloween Night's the Grinch or whatever.
Rotten Tomatoes and Halloween Grinch. Halloween is Grinch Night on Rotten Tomatoes has 0 reviews in the tomato meter and a 58% audience score.
The tomato meter is even like, no, we're not going to even watch it.
And then the Grinch is the Cat in the Hat, which now that I see a screenshot, I remember actually watching this as a kid at some point.
I know. I saw him laying on the bed getting this with the Cat in the Hat doing the psychological thing, and I was like, or the psychologist thing. I was like, okay, maybe I think I remember this maybe once.
And it got an audience score of 54%, but a tomato meter of 9%. Oh no, that's the Cat in the Hat movie. Dang it! I know how to use stuff.
Yeah, we won't even touch the cat. I mean, the Jim Carrey version started was a reason for the Cat in the Hat movie. So they're like, oh, this one did somewhat successful. Let's do this, and then that bombed. Also, fun fact: Jim Carrey voiced another Dr. Seuss character, Horton.
Oh, really?
Horton Here's a Who.
Looks like the Grinch is the Cat in the Hat doesn't have any ratings either. So
because we forgot those movies existed. Apparently,
for good reason.
IMDb did too.
But there you go. I mean, that kind of takes you through a little bit. With it being the holiday season, we figured this would be a great chance to go through and, maybe you've learned a few things about the Grinch. You can go impress somebody with some random trivia knowledge now. And, a little more appreciation for some of those movies that came out.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to appreciate the Jim Carrey one, the scene where he pulls the tablecloth off the table and everything stays on there, that wasn't supposed to happen. Everything was supposed to fall off. That's why he marches back and knocks everything over. Improvise.
I didn't know that.
There you go.
Because I'm wondering if the Grinch has a half-life for different generations, because 57 to 98, that's, 40 years? 40-some years? Something and then it was just under 20 years until the next movie came out. So does that mean we're looking at another new Grinch remake in 2028 or so? Is that what we're looking at now?
In 10 years, yeah.
Yeah.
It could be.
It could work out that way. But for you, the listener, what is your favorite version of the Grinch? I don't know. At Geekish on social media.
Did you watch those other two movies that we didn't even know existed?
Yeah. If anyone says Halloween is Grinch night, I want to know when you first saw it and why you watched it, because I've never heard of it in my life. And I watched all the cartoons when I was a kid. Well, that being said, hey, thank you for being a listener. You know that? And Derek, thank you for being a co-host.
Hell,
yeah. It's a little sanity to my life and, social things like talking to other people.
It's good not to be a Grinch.
Yes, I hope all of your hearts grow 2 times in size, but not like hospital-wise, just like Grinch-wise. Like,
just feelings.
Feelings, not actual heart palpitations. Well, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. There is a little bit of history for you. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and bah humbug.
I think it's, what is it, the song? Anyway.
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch.
There you go.
Hey, thanks for listening. We truly appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast. Find us on social media at Get Geekish. And if you want more podcasts, we got plenty of them.